Hello everybody, my name is Fraser Bliss from Farmwell. I'm very excited to be here today. So excited, in fact, that a little mountain biking accident last week in the Austrian Alps is not preventing me from being here. What I'm going to be talking with you today is I'm going to be sharing a little bit of story and insights about where this revolution in farming, where this paradigm shift is coming from. When I was asked, I graduated from business school studying information technology. 15 years ago I graduated and I was asked the question, where do I see myself going in the future? And I didn't have a specific answer, but I knew for certain at that time, or I thought I did, anything but food was my answer. I thought, how boring is food? I mean, who wants to be in food? I mean, we eat it, we get rid of it, we find it in supermarkets, it grows by poor people who are dumb, at least as the stereotypes are. Little did I know. And what I actually found is I started working for big companies, and I got very interested in finance as well. So my introduction to sustainable agriculture came through trading commodity futures on very big exchanges. And my motivation on how to make money on the markets was to acquire knowledge in agriculture. So the more I studied, the more I realized that the system is in fact broken, and it led me to sustainable agriculture. So I got started. I was consulting big companies on how to save $1 million a year with IT systems and business consulting, and this very soon I got very demotivated. I felt like a seedling that did not have enough light to grow. So one day my partner Victoria and I asked each other the question, what would we do if we only had 1 year left to live? And the answer was, go traveling, go see the world. There's so much that we don't know. So we left and we went on an adventure. We said to our friends and family, this adventure could go anywhere from 5 months to 5 years. We don't know. It ended up turning around about 4 or 5 years in the end, but it took us to all sorts of places that we hadn't seen. We learned new things. We experienced new cultures. We had an experience of things. We were able to look at the world and observe things. Also, not all the experiences were pleasant. Some of them were very challenging. We often saw things that we didn't understand at the time, but they were pieces in the puzzle that we were able to put together later. And we were able to spend time with people and on farms in the Himalaya, and we were able to push ourselves to physical limits. We were able to find our own edge of ourselves, because if you don't know yourself, how are you supposed to contribute yourself in the world going forward? We ended up in places like Australia, New Zealand, and very soon we found ourselves on organic farms. Woofing, volunteering your time and labor, 4 hours a day for food and board and an educational experience. I started getting introduced to something called permaculture, permacultura. And I was the farm manager for Bill Mollus in Australia, the founder of permaculture. And I was there for the very specific reason that I wanted to learn as much as possible about sustainable agriculture so that I could go buy a piece of land, build my own utopia, and turn it into something beautiful and just live a nice, quiet life out there. But I didn't do it. For some reason, it felt selfish. I can fix my 25 acres and I can turn it into something great, but what about the millions and millions and millions of acres around the world that I can't do? So this got me thinking, how can I use my experience that I have in my life, both on the ground, getting my hands dirty, as well as my background in business, finance, information technology? And I started thinking of how can I design a system that lets farmers go forward with the systems that they want, the slow systems, the systems that they have that are people-friendly and earth-friendly. And how can they do that in a way that is very efficient and that can actually make some money in farming? Because if you can't make any money, you're going to give up after a few years because you need money in this world. So I started developing a system that let farmers sell their produce directly to consumers online in the cities with no effort at all. 30 minutes, virtually no money. They can get up and start going very easily. And this was something that helps them run their business and to know their customers better. Because if you don't know your customers, how can you be growing the food that they want to be eating? Anyone recognize who this person is here? If this was a finance conference, every hand would go up, but it's not. This is Jim Rogers, a legendary investor. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records. He co-founded the Quantum Fund in the 1970s with George Soros. This guy is a genius at what he does. It's incredible. And what is his number one recommendation for youngish people, let's say under 40, 50, something like this? What's the number one thing that they can do to push their life in the right direction? He says, learn to drive a tractor. He says, but if you don't want to get your hands dirty, you don't like to get your hands dirty, open up a Ferrari dealership in a farming community. Now, what the heck is this guy, legendary investor Jim Rogers, know that the general public does not? Maybe a lot of people in this room know what he's thinking, but let's take a little look. Because if you understand what the forces behind this movement are, you can position yourself to not only help, but to profit along the way. This is what's known as the commodity agriculture cycle. It goes up and down in spans of about 50 years, and at the turn of the millennium, we just started the next cycle up. Maybe this is one reason why. The average age of farmers in the United States, in most Western countries, is about 58 years old. They're old. Why are they getting old? Because no young blood wants to get into farmers until very recently. So what this means is there's a huge demographic factor that's pushing, and this is average age is now starting to fall. And what this means is that in this next few decades, it's the biggest land transfer in modern history. All these old hands are holding the land, and they're transferring it to the younger generation. Typically not their children. The children are busy in the cities doing city things, but they're giving it to young people, and they want to do this in a new way. And that's very important, because the way things have been done with the older generation in the 1950s Green Revolution way of thinking has been causing some problems. We don't need to go into them here, but these are problems that are some of the forces behind environmental problems. When you have unhealthy soils and you have unhealthy animals, you have unhealthy plants, you also have unhealthy people. And we all know there's a massive trend going forward to health, to eating well, and this is something that this conference is exactly here for this reason. People want to know where their food is coming from. They want to know the farmer and how it's growing. The scale of size of farms is coming down from thousands of acres to a very small scale. And the smaller the scale, the more profitable it is, the more intensive you can grow. And of course, you're just in the backyard to your consumers. Not only that, but we have this huge entrepreneurship trend. People are sick and tired in their companies, or they have a vision that they want to do. Technology tools, let them go ahead and do that. There's this trend, e-commerce sales, people are getting aligned, buying more and more every single year. These are all wins that are coming at the back of this huge movement. There's the trend to simplicity. Less is more. Let's get rid of the clutter in our life. iPhone developed an application, Apple, that was very simple to use. And this has trickled down into the interfaces of other types of software. It has to be clutter-free. It has to be to the point and useful. So all of these factors that we have, from environmental factors to the economy to health, simplicity, quality, the demographics, the entrepreneurship, all of these things are all these big waves coming through, these big tailwinds. And I've been looking at this problem for quite some time, and I've only found one thing that addresses all of them, and this is local, sustainable agriculture. You can find a couple of these points and solve them with other issues, but if you want to hit all of these big points with one dart, with one point, with one arrow, this is where to focus. And this is why I decided to give up the utopian lifestyle in Australia on 25 acres and start something which required a heck of a lot of effort, much more than I would need to live sustainably out there in the countryside, but is also the motivation on which we need to go forward, because it isn't just about taking care of yourself, it's about having your work do something that's meaningful and help people along the way. This is one of the biggest reasons that we have. So let's meet the modern farmer. Who is the modern farmer? The modern farmer is very mobile, not just with technology, but the technology that they have on the ground is mobile. This is mobile mob grazing, rotational grazing for cows. The cows will be here in a few days. Next, they'll be followed by chickens, and 50% of the chickens' diet can come from fly larvae that is inside of the manure. So the chickens are cleaning up the paddocks. They're getting half of their diet from the worms inside of the cow manure, and that's 50% less feed that you need to give them. And they're happy. That's what they do. This is a chicken tractor, managing the landscape and providing food. If anybody recognized that farmer, that's probably the most famous farmer in the world, Joe Sallet in the United States. So the local farmer is sustainable. His products are people-friendly. They're earth-friendly. And the interesting thing is when you farm in this way, it is low capital, it is low risk, and it's profitable. Let's take a look at one example. Spin farming. It's a type of urban farming. It's a business model for urban farming. It's incredible. You need $5,000 to start up in your first season. It requires about 40 to 45 hours a week of your time for only 8 months of the year. If you want to be a ski bum for the other 4 months, you go ahead and do that, no problems. You can pull in $50,000 in your first year, which of 80 to 90% is pure profit in your pocket. Not too bad, considering his grandparents or his parents couldn't make a business in farming with government subsidies and cheap oil. It's just so efficient. They're tech savvy. And the interesting thing is that it looks like he's using hand tools. How can he be tech savvy? Because his technology is in the soil. It's the soil microbiology. It's the science. And it's internet technologies that enable him to work hyper efficiently. He's very smart, or she's very smart, or maybe the fact that they just don't want to work for that boss that tells them what to do all the time. They're just fed up. Anyways, these are the types of people that are going in. Our customers with Farmwell, they are bankers. They are accountants. They are corporate people. They're ex-marketing people. These are people that know what they want, and they need help doing it. So all of this equals very, very, very big opportunities. And these opportunities, I think, are the reason a lot of people are here today. And when you understand why these forces are happening, how they're happening, and you know the people on the ground and what they need, there's 1,000 different ways you can help them, whether prefabricated products to help them with their chicken tractors, or different helps with marketing or consulting. We have people come to me and some of our friends that, give me a Joe Sallet farm. I just bought 100 acres. Please set it up. Give me the farming techniques, the business model, all of this stuff. Just set it up. 6 months, I want to go. Plug and play farming. That's what it is. I've chosen specifically to use my background, and I'm hitting this from the angle of software. So this is one of the ways that I like to do it. I'm not going to be talking about this today. On Saturday, I'm going to be talking specifically about how the use of the internet is helping farmers, what their problems still are. If you want to hear that, come here on Saturday, or come to our booth at the farm. We'll be happy to talk about some of these opportunities. Love to hear your ideas. I just have a few of them. This is what everything's here for. Thank you very much.